Okay, we're moving on to board committee reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
We had our CRIROP meeting just last week, I believe. There's just a couple of things I kind of want to read out. On January 16th, we had 26 students from Redlands East Valley High School's digital video production class attend a behind-the-scenes look at a live news broadcast at KESQ Palm Desert in the desert. It looked pretty actually interesting because they got to watch a live broadcast and they got to see like what goes on, and apparently you have to be very, very quiet because you can hear everything, so you're not allowed to like laugh, giggle, talk during the broadcast. Seemed pretty cool. We also have our student services team for CRIROP and cabinet members toured the Redlands High School adult transition programs, including their coffee, floors, and restaurant for Studio 24. And CRIROP and RUSD are joining forces to determine how best to serve students utilizing CRIROP's workability and we can work grant funding. So hopefully we'll see some good come out of that. There are CRIROP is also looking to hire some positions. They're looking for, as of last week, I hope, this is still a current list, but they are looking for classified substitutes, testing proctor on call, certificated substitute teachers, nurse assistant, certificated substitute teacher, a virtual enterprise 1 and 2 teacher at Bloomington High School, and a veterinary assistant 1 and 2 teacher at Bloomington High School as well. So I can give that list to anybody else that is interested, but for now, that's what they have open. That's it. Anybody else?
My committee didn't meet.
We had the steering committee for the compact clubs last Thursday and the mixer dinners tomorrow night, and then the planning is in the works for the mock interviews through the winter.
All right, Superintendent Cabral, do you have anything for us?
Yes, thank you. Just one second. I wanted to clarify a couple of things regarding budget reductions. First, I'll say that I became superintendent, or I wanted to become a superintendent, because I want to be the person that says, I am responsible. I am the CEO of the district and take full responsibility for what's happening right now. And I accept all criticisms, and I actually embrace the fact that the community, our staff, would hold me accountable, and I actually believe that the board's duty is to hold me accountable. Having said that, I inherited a budget in 23 when I took over, and it is a fact that one-time money was used to give a big raise. That is a fact. That is not to say, and this is where I want to make it very clear, that there is any blame on our staff. I said at our last meeting that I believe that that was great for our staff, and I appreciate that it made us competitive. But the reality is that COLA having been what it was at that time, we did not see all of that funding. And leadership at that time knew that we would have to use one-time money to make up the difference from what we actually received versus what we're giving. That is not to say that it was on any of our staff. It is to say, though, that we must take responsibility for that. I identified that when I came in, and that is why I wanted to do an incentive. I wanted to see how many positions we could reduce so that we could try to make up for this decision that was made. That was an immediate attempt to reduce staff. That coupled with the hope that enrollment would not continue to decline, but stay at the very least level, could have helped make sure that at this point we did not have the deficit that we have right now. Unfortunately, we did lose an additional almost 400 students within that 2-year time frame, which just also meant that COLA was not going to be again fully funded because COLA is attached to per student increases. And if your student numbers go down, then the total COLA you receive is going to be less than what you thought it was going to be. Okay? It is not easy to recommend any kind of layoffs. I appreciate every position that we have, and I will say again that every one of them impacts our students, and we need all of them. We also need to reduce our budget, and our goal was to look at positions that were not inside the classroom, and that meant looking at positions that were outside. And that is why the list is filled with positions that impact our kids, but are not, for example, classroom teachers or paraeducators that are in the classroom. We have paraeducators on the list who are itinerant, who will be assigned back into the classroom. That'll help with additional folks in the classroom. The ones that are on the list today are site-based, funded categorically. Those sites have decided to eliminate that position. Anybody in those positions will be absorbed into a paraeducator position. I started by saying I do take full responsibility, which is why we had 2 meetings on the 23rd and on the 26th where everybody who was given a letter of possible reduction was invited to this boardroom so they could hear directly from me why we are in this situation and why we made the decisions that we made. We did that on those 2 dates so that they could hear it from me prior to the board taking action. I stood here, boardroom was filled with our employees, and they were able to ask me any question that they wanted, and I guaranteed that they would have an answer. And we did that on that Friday, the 23rd, and we did it again on the 26th. I've also added office hours where I have already gone to 2 sites where I make myself available for any staff member who would like to personally share with me anything, but also to ask me directly why this is happening. I do care for everyone that's impacted, and I want to make sure they hear it from me. I had great conversations where I was able to, talk to many of our staff at 2 different sites. I'm scheduled to be at another site tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to talking to as many folks that are willing to speak to me. And I am scheduled to have office hours the rest of this semester at every single one of our school sites. And I plan to add divisions and departments to give as many employees as possible to tell me directly how they're feeling. And I'm okay with whatever feeling that is because I accept that. It is not easy, but I am going to lead us through this the best way that I feel that I can. I am making recommendations to the board that I feel should be acceptable to everybody on the board. Of course, we have already seen that it's not been entirely that way, and I respect that, but I wanted to make it very clear some of the things that have been stated where we do have some clarity, and I can take any questions if you have any.
I had a question. You mentioned categorical spending. The cuts that are talked about tonight, categorical spending per school?
They're site-based. And so a site does have the ability to use their categorical money in the way that they choose. And if they've chosen to eliminate that position, it's likely because we are going to reduce site budgets next year. That may have something to do with it, but also because they may decide to do something different with it. It could be a different position, for example.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I think it's important for people to know.